Hey everybody, it's GomletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today I'll be playing another Arena Cube draft of the January 2022 Cube. Without further ado, let's take a look through this pack and see what we've got. So I do like the card I'm hovering over here, Ovenwald Hydra. I like this card quite a bit. It's a nice green finisher in any deck, being a really big card that no matter what pulls out a land. It's really good if you do manage to build the Field of the Dead deck, because you can pull out the Field of the Dead to start going off with that land. The fact that this pulls any non-basic out is really nice. So it's just a pretty great top end in a green deck, so I'm kind of happy to try that card out here as the pick one, pack one. But as always, there are a bunch of other sweet cards in here. Some great cheap red removal, good cheap interaction in blue. Thassa's Oracle I think might actually work pretty decently in this cube. The last deck I drafted was a blue-white control deck where the games went really long to where we did win a game or two to milling ourselves out with like Jace. So I don't think Thassa's Oracle is particularly like unplayable or anything in the cube either. But yeah, I don't really want to take one of these gold cards right off the bat. They're both pretty solid commands, but don't love taking gold cards immediately unless they're super good. I'm just going to grab this Ovenwald Hydra, see where we can go from there. We do have a Scute Swarm to follow it up with to be some sort of green landfall strategy. That could be pretty cool. The Immortal Sun's a really nice pickup. If we're any sort of mid-range deck, this is going to be good for us. You know, unless we're really aggressive, this card's going to be doing something good for us. And it doesn't really matter what colors we end up in since it's completely colorless, so Immortal Sun's probably a pretty high pick. Dragon Master Outcast is nice, but you have to look at this card as another late game win condition, kind of similar to the Ovenwald Hydra, because while it's a 1-mana card, it doesn't go off till you have 6 or more lands. So I tend not to try to pick up like a million late game win conditions right off the bat, because you don't need too many of them. You need a lot more cards at the lower end of your curve, 2, 3, 4 mana cards, so that you're constantly playing stuff throughout the game no matter what your mana situation is. So I don't think I'm just going to slam down Dragon Master Outcast here. But maybe Scute Swarm, because Scute Swarm is like, it takes over the game if you have the 6 lands, and even before then it's pretty solid. It's that or the Immortal Sun. I could see a pretty big argument for the Immortal Sun here just because it is completely colorless, but off the back of this Ovenwald Hydra, we'll see if we can't kind of cut the sort of landfall green rampy strategy here. Ovenwald Hydra and Scute Swarm is the first 2 picks. Now we have a couple really good picks, actually 3. I do think Llanowar Visionary is pretty good, but I think it's a little bit behind the other 2 cards that I'm interested in here. Actually, it might be... You know what, it might contend with them, it might compete with them, because there's not like a boatload of great ramp in the cube, so just having a 3-drop that helps you cast your late game plays like Ovenwald Hydra a turn earlier and draws you a card when you play it is really good. Yeah, I might be undervaluing this. But the cards that I'm really looking at here are Escape to the Wilds, which is massive because it's a draw 5 in red-green that doesn't tend to get a bunch of card draw. Sure, you have to cast all the cards by the end of your next turn, but any of the lands you hit, you get to play an additional land this turn, so you're definitely playing all of those. And yeah, since you're playing 2 lands, you're really getting the mana you need. And then we also just have Vivian, which is great for green, kind of a big finisher. I'm actually pretty okay with the Llanowar Visionary here, though. I feel like I talked myself into that one where, like, I don't know, it just seems really solid because it's the ramp that lets you hit your later game plays a turn earlier while also just drawing a card and replacing itself. So even if it just dies to something, it's still giving you value, it still replaced itself. I'm pretty happy to just take Cultivate here, another great ramp spell. We could take Turn Timber Symbiosis, so we've got a land that has versatility late game. If we top deck it, we're not just flooded out. We get to slam down a Turn Timber Symbiosis. I do think it's a pretty solid card for that reason, but I think I like Cultivate a little better. Really get started with a lot of ramp cards so that we can start picking up some of the big bomby plays and running a lot of them. Plus Cultivate's really good with Scute Swarm. Even if we don't need a million mana, we can get some landfall triggers off of it. Ooh, Esika's Chariot is still a good card, even if it is nerfed, so I'm pretty happy to take that here. This is the Alchemy version of Esika's Chariot, so it's 4 mana for a 4/4 vehicle that requires 2 to crew it instead of 4. However, it only creates 1 2/2 cat and not 2 2/2 cats like it used to. I think this card is still pretty great. even though it has been nerfed, and kind of happy to just slam that in here. And we have a really nice start where we're just green so far, so we are really open to, you know, whenever there's not like a powerful green card in the pack, just taking the best off-color card no matter what color it's in, so I do like that quite a bit. I love that we're just mono green here. Trumpeting Herd, what is this? This is new to the cube because it came in Modern Horizons 2, which I guess was Jumpstart Historic Horizons on Arena. So it's a 4 mana to create 2 3/3 elephants, but it's 1, and then it's the second one next turn. That's a really good deal for 4 mana, but it is slow. Is there anything powerful in the other colors? Anything like super powerful in the other colors, I would say? There's some solid role fillers, but nothing like bomby, nothing super huge. Yeah, I'll try out a Trumpeting Herd here. I don't see a massive reason to hop into another color yet. Okay, now this pack is so good. Oh, and you give me a really hard choice too. So Fauna Shaman is one of my favorite cards. This is probably my favorite card that I've never played in paper. I have never owned a Fauna Shaman in my life. The first time I ever cast one was in the Arena Cube, and I fell in love with it immediately. The versatility of any creature you draw being the best creature for this situation is so good. I love tutoring for creatures with this card. Like, you don't have mana for Ulvenwald Hydra? Alright, discard it, grab a Masked Vandal, so now you can destroy an artifact or enchantment if you're playing against one. So really good, flexible versatility card. But then there's also Ranger class, which I've never played in the cube before because it just now got added. This is its first time in the cube, and it's a super powerful card. It's like a kind of a game ender on its own. So I'm going to play the Ranger class here, but I did want to give Fauna Shaman the full spiel that it deserves. I love me a Fauna Shaman, but it's going to have to be Ranger class. If you've played any Standard or Alchemy, you know how powerful this card can be. And I have not tried it in the cube yet, but I assume it's a similar level of power here. So now the only green card's Return of the Wild Speaker, which I don't love. Draw a few cards or maybe finish the game. I guess we don't have any humans, do we? So that's, yeah, no humans. It does buff the whole field, +3/+3. It does draw off any creature we have. Our other options really don't seem great here again, so yeah, sure, Return of the Wild Speaker. Maybe we could have taken the Mole Drifter there and consider going blue-green just so I could play more copies of Mole Drifter. But just yesterday I got to play a Mole Drifter and flickered a few times, so I think I've gotten that out of my system for now. Another real easy pick here, we can just take Garruk. Worst case scenario, it's 4 mana 3/3. That's not very good, but if it sticks around, then you get some trample buffs and maybe make some more 3/3s. Yeah, Garruk's pretty cool. Again, nothing super powerful in another color. Honestly, the next pick I would take would be the Deathcap Glade, just to have some mana fixing ready. Alright, so the strongest card here is Gaunty. That is what I would say. I think Gaunty's just really good in the cube. The card quality is so high in the cube in general, because it's just a collection of the best cards on Arena, that digging in your opponent's library 4 cards deep, you're probably drawing something real good, no matter what it is. Even if it doesn't like make a ton of sense in your deck, it's still going to be a real powerful card. So I'm going to grab a Gaunty here. A little awkward that Blooming Marsh is in the same pack, because now we would like to pick up some of the black-green duels for sure. And I could definitely see, if we do end up playing the Gaunty, I could see a world in which we're going to end up cutting this Garruk, and it feels bad that I didn't just take the green-black duel over Garruk. I don't know what to take here. I don't think any of these are good with green. Experimental Frenzy is probably the best if we're just like red-green hyper aggro. Yep. So now we have Shadow Spear, which is nice when you have like big creatures that don't have trample. Like Ulvenwald Hydra doesn't have trample. These elephants don't have trample. Most of our threats don't naturally have trample, so I kind of like Shadow Spear here. We could take Chainweb Arachneer. It's an interesting card, gives you some main deck flying hate, but I don't find it all that insane. Alright, Balagad Recovery is pretty nice. It's just it comes into play tapped land in the early game, and in the late game, it's another one of those modal lands to help make sure you don't flood out. So it's a really... Oh my god! Alright, okay. Last pick, Fauna Shaman. Green is wide open. People do not respect my girl, the Fauna Shaman. One of my favorite cards in the whole cube. All right, well, we've just got a Fauma Shaman now. That's excellent. Okay, let's calm down and check out what's in this pack. There's two really, really good cards, and they're both new to the cube as well. We've got Augur of Autumn, a great draw engine. No matter what, this lets you draw lands off the top of your library. You can play land cards from the top of your library. So if you do that, then you're like getting the land out of the way, so you draw the next card next turn instead. So nice draw engine for that, and if you get Coven, you can cast creatures from the top of your library as well, which is really good. And then there's Wrenn and 7, which is just a finisher for 5, and it's also really good with our Esika's Chariot. That's kind of the combo in Standard and Alchemy. Is you play this, you create a Tree Folk with power toughness equal to the number of lands you control, and then you attack with an Esika's Chariot and copy that Tree Folk. I think I'm going to take Wrenn and 7 because we have Esika's Chariot. If we didn't have an Esika's Chariot here, I might take the Augur. I do think Augur's a real good card draw engine. But Wrenn and 7 are a solid finisher as well. So now, I like me a Voracious Hydra. This is both just a gigantic trampling finisher and a fight spell for a lot of mana, granted, but it is a fight spell in green to remove something with. So yeah, I like it a lot, especially when we've got like a Fauna Shaman in our deck, so we can pull that out of our deck at an opportune time. It's definitely the kind of card that gets a lot better when you have a Fauna Shaman sort of tutor in your deck, similar to like Masked Vandal. So anything that fights or destroys an artifact or enchantment or destroys a flyer or anything like that, these kind of things get better when you have tutors to get them when you need them. So like Chainweb Arachneer, turns out that would have worked really well in this deck because we wield Fauna Shaman. The Chainweb Arachneer, that reach spider, deals damage to a flyer when you play it, and it can escape. You can cast it from your graveyard. That card's just excellent with Fauna Shaman, so I am a little sad I didn't pick up that Chainweb Arachneer, because of course you can discard it to the Fauna Shaman and then recast it from the graveyard, or when you need to kill a flyer, you can tutor it out of your deck. So both of those reasons, it's great. All right, Timeless Witness is excellent with Fauna Shaman. We can discard this to search for something else and then eternalize it from our graveyard, make it a 4/4 for 7 mana, and still get its Enter the Battlefield effect. Plus, we can tutor it out when we need that effect and use that. So really good combo with our Fauna Shaman and a pretty good card in general. So I'm happy to take Timeless Witness here. It's also the only mono green card, and with how open green was by the end of the first pack, it's entirely possible we get to just go straight mono green. Yeah, now we get a Toski, Bearer of Secrets. Really nice card here. I think Vastwood Surge is pretty powerful too, but it looks like if we're just going to be mono green, we'll probably want to get a little bit of a lower curve and go for a kind of standard mono green stompy sort of deck, unless like a multicolored land-based ramp deck. So I'm going to take Toski here. Toski's just ridiculous. Really hard to kill it, uncounterable, indestructible, and it just gives you a ton of card draw if you have enough creatures on the board to hit your opponent with. So definitely want to get some good 1/2 mana creatures. That would be ideal. So we have a Regrowth here, but we already have that kind of effect covered. Timeless Witness does the same thing. Balagad Recovery does the same thing, and they're both more flexible. The Recovery can be a land, and the Witness is a creature. So I don't like Regrowth here, so I guess it's just Oracle of Moldiah or Icy Manipulator, or we splash in like a Devil's Play. Or a Demonic Tutor. We do have a Gonti to maybe splash in, so if we do splash in black, we can throw in a Demonic Tutor too, which is kind of cool. I feel like it's just Oracle of Moldiah. I'm pretty sure we can do mono green at this point. Oh yeah, now we get Garruk's Uprising and Beanstalk Giant. A card draw engine if we have enough creatures with power 4 or greater, or a ramp spell plus finisher, the Beanstalk Giant. I like both of these a lot. We don't have a lot of creatures that just naturally come in with 4 more power, so Uprising actually doesn't look great here. I'm just going to take the Beanstalk Giant. I'm not going to play a Wilt, and I'm not going to play an Emergent Sequence. Maybe I'll play an Emergent Sequence. I need more cheap cards, so I have to put something in. It's not like it's a card I'd like to cut for other stuff, but it's still, I mean, it's playable. Grab a land out of your deck, make that land a 2/2. So I just don't love it because your opponent can just kill your land and then you don't get any of the ramp that you wanted. But at the same time, it's kind of a 2-mana 2/2, which is what we were sort of looking for the stompy side of this deck. Some more cheap attackers. All right, there's some green-black cards here, Old Rutstein and Find and Finality. I think Find Finality looks pretty nice for this deck because both halves of this card could be pretty relevant at different points in the game. Don't love Cure, again, we just don't have a lot of powerful or greater creatures. I'm going to pick up a Find and Finality. Another card, I'm not guaranteed to play it, I'm only going to play it if we end up splashing the black for the Gonti, but still a decent pickup if we go that route. Guess we pick up an Ovea Pashiri, so we have some cheap cards. Don't love this card because the mana sink abilities on it are a little overcosted. They're a little expensive to play around with, so it's not the kind of thing you're ever going to use unless you're just out of other cards to play. But, I don't know, it's nice if you do run out of cards. This is an easy explore. When this card was first getting some traction, getting some play in ramp decks, I remember it was called the Poor Man's Time Walk. Because what are two things that you can only do once per turn? You draw your card per turn, you play your land drop per turn. So, I don't know, it's kind of cute to look at it that way. It's like the green time walk. Definitely not as good, but still pretty solid, I would say. We're not going to play any of this. Croaking counterpart is incredible artwork, so I guess we'll grab that. And we're not going to play any of this either, but I guess maybe a Vastwood Surge, pretty unlikely. But I think I'm definitely not playing Jaspera Sentinel, even if I'm like really reaching for 1-2 mana creatures, I'm not going to play that. Don't think I'll play Icy Manipulator. Kind of a control spell there. Okay, so the final pack, and if we cut black and go mono green, we only need to get one more card, and we can just play a 17 land deck, and here we are, mono green Stompy. Oh, this is going to be a fun time. So I think my favorite card out of this pack for curve considerations is Gilded Goose. This is great because we play this on turn 1 and it ramps us into our 3-mana card, which we have a lot of 3-mana cards and a lot of them are very good, like Skeet Swarm, Llanowar Visionary, Cultivate Beanstalk Giant. Like, ramping into your permanent ramp a little early with the Gilded Goose is pretty sweet, and we've got 3 ramp cards at 3. And even if we don't ramp into one of those 3, we could maybe ramp into a Skeet Swarm, which is excellent. So yeah, I definitely like Gilded Goose here, even though we're mono-colored. So we're not getting a bunch of versatility out of adding a mana of any color. We're still ramping up and casting something a turn early, so I like that. And I like to wheel Primal Command, that would be pretty cool. I don't know how I feel about Abundant Harvest, though, the only other green card in that pack. So here we have Settle the Wilds. I feel like we've got more than enough ramp for how our curve looks, so I don't really think I need that. Well, actually, so this is, for 3 mana, it's Rampant Growth plus get a permanent into your hand. That's pretty interesting. That actually does seem like a really good deal. So 3 mana, pull a land out of your deck, plus draw a card that is guaranteed to be castable. So if you play this turn 3, you're getting a 4 mana permanent from your deck into your hand. And if you draw this late game, then just like, bam, get something really big. If you have one in your deck. I want to try this out. This is a new card. I'll try it out. Reclamation Sage would be excellent here because we have Fauna Shaman. So it's one of those ETB effects that's really good. And Heroic Intervention would be really nice here as well. We could use that to just counter one removal spell. Or, if we're really lucky, we can use that to counter a Wrath of God. So I think those are both pretty sweet. But I want to try the new card. That also looks pretty hot. Yeah, Settle the Wilds. Try that out. Ooh, I'm real happy to play a Dryad Greenseeker. Pretty big fan of this card. 2 mana, 1/3, a decent little blocker turn 2, but it's one of these cards similar to Oracle of Moldiah that lets you play lands off the top of your library. Lets you dig through any mana clumps, any clumps of lands, so it can potentially draw you a lot of cards if you have a bunch of lands on top of your library as you use this ability, so pretty happy with Greenseeker here. Again, we have some recursion already, so Wildest Dreams is doing the same thing a lot of our other cards are already doing. We're not playing enough of a variety of lands for Elvish Reclaimer or Field of the Dead to matter, but Field of the Dead is usually a really nice pickup early in the draft when you're trying to do this green sort of land-based deck, but that's because you can then pick up a bunch of off-color dual lands and stuff and start playing a much more splashy deck that's actually searching out other colors of mana. It's not something we can really do, so I really like Scavenging Ooze here. Yeah, main deckable Graveyard Hate. Even if your opponent isn't doing anything with their graveyard, it's a 2-mana 2/2 that's likely to get bigger and gain some life, which is super good against aggressive decks because you're getting that life gain and trading that off. And I don't like Night Pack Ambusher in mono green because this is a card that incentivizes you to cast nothing during your turn. So you have to have a lot of instant speed stuff in your deck. Not something that mono green really is capable of doing. Mono green, you've got a ton of just sorcery speed, big dorky creatures and spells. So that Night Pack Ambusher, it's really good in like green blue, where you just pick up a deck that uses nothing but instant speed spells to spit out those tokens. So there's like nothing here, right? There's blacks, pests, bats, insects, snakes, and spiders. I don't think we have any of those. We have one insect, actually. All of our Scute Swarms will get +1/+1. All our copies of Scute Swarms will get +1/+1 from Blex. Yeah, I don't think that's it. I'm just gonna take a card. We're probably gonna cut a card, but it's a fine card draw engine for literally any deck because it is colorless. You just use the +1 and -1 ability a lot. You can just pretend the -2 doesn't exist, and it's still just a solid card draw planeswalker. There's only one on-color card in this pack, so we'll just take that, the Sawtusk Demolisher. And it's a pretty solid card. Can mutate to just put a lot of power toughness on the board quite early, or destroy any non-creature permanent, so any terrifying planeswalker, you can just turn it into a 3/3, anything like that. So Demolisher's pretty nice. And nothing here. I guess we take like Domri. We do have a green-red duel. And playing a little bit of red would be really easy to do. Because we have a green-red duel and we have a million cards that just pull land out of our deck. Yeah, this is about the easiest splash in the universe, so I'll just grab a Domri. And the reason it's an easy splash is because Domri only costs 1 red mana. So it's just a way easier splash than Gonti is. So that's a splash I'm more considering than the black splash at this point. Tangled Florahedron it is. Pretty nice card. If you have a 2-drop to play, you just play this as your land, and if you don't, then you play it as some mana ramp. Another red-green duel, Rootbound Crag. Make this Domri splash just free. Just put a single mountain in our deck and call it a day. I like it. I don't think Abundant Harvest looks all that sweet. Just pick land or non-land, and then you just draw one land or draw one non-land, basically. It's kind of like a green opt, sort of. Alright, well, how free do we want the Domri splash to be? Because we could take Rockfall Vale here, but we could also take Reclamation Sage or Heroic Intervention. We have 15 creatures. I actually do want a little more creatures than that still at this point, so I feel like Rec Sage over Heroic Intervention. We kind of just let our opponent kill whatever they want. I don't know. I'm still going to take Heroic Intervention. I feel like it fills a role nothing else in our deck really does. Like, how do we play around Wrath effects and a bunch of removal? Our main plan against that is to just start returning things that died back to our hand with Timeless Witness and stuff. It's a late Sphinx's Rev and Search for Escanta. These both would have been sick in our last deck. But Sphinx's Rev is like one of the most iconic draw-go control cards of all time. It's called draw-go because those decks would work by you just draw your card for turn, and then you just say, alright, go. Pass turn immediately every time, because your entire deck's instant speed stuff. And then you would just hold up a grip full of counter spells and removal, and if you didn't have to cast any of it, then you just cast a Sphinx's Revelation and draw a million cards, so that you never run out of gas. So Sphinx's Revelation is pretty sweet in that kind of deck, like the last one we drafted. Alright, well this deck's sick. I feel like we're probably supposed to splash Domri here, because again, the splash is basically free. We just need to put one mountain in, so that we have a basic mountain to grab with Cultivate, and with Beanstalk Giant, and Emergent Sequence, all that kind of stuff. That being said, it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool we managed to end up in a mono-colored deck here. So I am tempted to just play mono green just to send a message about how open green was in this pod. Almost definitely not the right thing to do, but I'm having fun here. Let's just go. We'll have 0 mana issues. It is impossible for this deck to have mana issues. I'm incredibly ready to eat my words there because the odds of having any mana issues with this deck are insanely low. Because even if we're mana screwed, we play Explore, we play Emergent Sequence, we play Beanstalk Giant, Cultivate, Settle the Wilds, Llanowar Visionary, Tangled Flora Agent. It's insane. All right. So no Vastwood Surge, we don't need to ramp into stuff at that point. We've got plenty of cheaper ramp and not a lot of late game plays. I think we're definitely cutting a lot of non-creature stuff because we only have 16 creatures here. Although Ranger class is basically a creature. Emergent Sequence is basically a creature. Eska's Chariot is basically a creature. Garruk's a creature. Trumpeting Herd's a creature. Alright, we can cut a few creatures if we want. Probably keeping Shadow Spear in just for flexibility. Making all of our creatures fight a little bit above their mana value. So when you have an equipment that only gives +1/+1, like it doesn't look super incredibly exciting, but the great thing about it is it makes your 2 mana cards as impactful as 3 or 4 mana cards. So, you know, the general rate is like a 2 mana 2/2, a 3 mana 3/3, a 4 mana 4/4, and so on. All of a sudden, if you're just putting a Shadow Spear onto everything you're attacking with, your cards are all fighting above their power level, above their weight level. Yeah, I kind of talked myself into Shadow Spear there. We'll definitely keep that in. I don't feel like Elvish Reclaimer does much here. Oh yeah, this does like nothing. Literal nothing, so we'll definitely cut those. 6 more cards to cut. There's no way I'm cutting Fauna Shaman. I did just notice it because the card style's still on though. Let's go ahead and turn those off real quick. Ooh. Nice, okay. We've got the actually good card style for Beanstalk Giant. I don't know why it defaulted to the Parallax style. Just the personal preference thing. I don't love the 3D warbly effect on the Parallax styles, but I do really like the just beautiful alternate artwork and frames and stuff that they make for the card styles. So I like all the ones that don't like move around when you're looking at them. Like Scavenging Ooze's style and stuff. It's pretty nice too. Alright, let's get our head back in the game. What 6 cards are we cutting here? I can't just sit here and keep talking about how many sweet cards are in the deck. We have to cut some of the sweet cards. I feel like we have so much ramp, we probably get rid of Cultivates. It pulls out 2 lands from our deck, so it's kind of like a green divination, but it's only lands. Settle the Wilds is even more a green divination. Because it's just guaranteed we're hitting that forest. It's like Cultivate, but instead of grabbing forest, we grab forest 4-drop. So it guarantees a turn 4 play for us. Yeah, I like Settle the Wilds better than Cultivate for sure. So if we're cutting some of our ramp, of which we have like 1 million, I think we're cutting Cultivate. And I like 2 mana ramp better than 3 mana ramp, so I like keeping Explorer in here, although we've got a lot of 2 mana plays. So how often are we slamming down Explorer and Emergent Sequence? I can actually see cutting Explorer for that reason. It looks like most of the time we're just trying to play a creature turn 2. We play a Ranger class, a Florahegian, Scavenging Ooze, Fauna Shaman, or Green Seeker. So maybe we cut Cultivate. We probably cut a land or 2 because of the fact that we have a couple flip lands in this deck as well as some ramp. So we have 2 cards that comes into play tapped lands, the Tangled Florahegian and the Balaged Recovery. I think I'm going to cut 1 land. I don't think I'm going to cut 2 though. That seems a little bold. Because we do still want to hit all of our lands on curve up to 6, generally. Definitely up to 4. Don't have a lot of 5s and 6s, to be fair. And this Demolisher is basically always getting mutated, so it's kind of a 4-drop. Maybe we do cut another land, because our curve sort of ends at 4. We have 3 cards that cost 5 or 6. Decent chunk of ramp. Even cutting Explore and Cultivate. I don't know, it does seem like kind of significantly less ramp that way. if we cut Explore and Cultivate, to the point where we probably don't cut another land after cutting those two. But if I leave one of these in, maybe we don't cut another land. Or maybe we do cut another land. I'm just going to cut those two here. And now 3 cards to cut. Trumpeting Herd does seem pretty slow. It's a card I've never cast in my life, though, so it would be kind of cool to try it out. Garruk also seems slow. Garruk almost seems like a strictly worse Trumpeting Herd, to be honest. Like, if I'm being completely honest about Garruk, the most important ability is being able to put creatures on the board. Although, I mean, our deck can probably put enough pressure on that the +1's pretty good as well. Giving something +3/+3 and trample really bashing in. This is probably better than Trumpeting Herd. Because the +1 effect is valuable as well, it's just not as good as the -2. I don't know, Garruk just sort of feels to me like a Trumpeting Herd that your opponent could hit for 2 damage to stop the second part from happening. It feels like most of the time it's just going to be spend 4 mana, get a 3/3 next turn, get a 3/3. But we have to put the versatility of the card. We have to factor the versatility of the card in as well. And it does have a +1 ability that will be relevant sometimes for bashing in for extra damage. And if we ever use the +1 ability, then it's possible it spits out even more than 2 beasts if it stays on board, if your opponent can't attack it or destroy it. Yeah, I'll play Garruk over Trumpeting Herd, but I'm definitely not going to play both because they're almost the same card. So I guess, sorry Trumpeting Herd. I know you're a new card I haven't played with yet, but we'll have to try you again another day. I don't know if Return of the Wildspeaker is all that necessary for us. We have some decent card draw. Dryad, Greenseeker, and Oracle of Moldiah make sure we draw all of the lands off the top of our deck. We have some recursion from like Timeless Witness, so we basically draw a card from your graveyard when you play that. We have Karn as a card draw engine. I don't know if we need to spend 5 mana to just draw a few cards, or 5 mana just give everything +3/+3. I think if we're in a position where we have a lot of creatures on board, we're probably already winning, because we probably already have some pretty decent creatures, and we have other ways to buff them, to make them better. Ranger class can put +1/+1 counters on them. Shadow Spear can give them +1/+1 trample lifelink. Garruk can do +3/+3. Yeah, I'm going to cut this Return of the Wildspeaker, and then we have one final card to cut. For a green deck, our creatures aren't that big. We have 2 really big creatures, Elvenwald Hydra and Sawtusk Demolisher, and then we just have a lot of 3/3s. 3/3s and 4/4s, right? Because Escalate for a 4/4, Garruk 3/3s, red and 7, I guess is 5/5. Voracious Hydra is really big, though. Alright, what are we cutting? Final card. Heroic Intervention is, like, really good the times when it goes off, but I don't love how narrow it is. I guess if we think about it, like, it's a massive combat trick if you get into combat and your opponents just try to trade off a bunch of creatures. All of a sudden, all of your creatures win the combat. It stops wrath effects, it stops single targeted removal spells. Probably flexible enough. But I'm kinda in the middle on it. Maybe we don't even need a card. Maybe we don't even need card draw. Maybe we're just trying to just bash out, just slam down a ridiculous curve. Like we're just trying to go like Ranger class, Llanowar Visionary, Ren and 7, deal with it, you know? Like, just some brutal curve like that. Or, I mean, we could imagine so many just ridiculous curves like that. You know, Scavenging Ooze, Settle the Wilds. And then I guess your good 4-drop like a Garruk or Eska's Chariot. There's a lot of sick stuff we can do. Yeah, I don't know if we need the card draw. We'll cut Karn there. And then I think this will be the deck. Alright, so here we are with another look at the deck. The final build. It's a mono green stompy deck. This deck looks like a ton of fun. We definitely had the opportunity to go green-red or green-black if we wanted, but just the idea of having a deck that has perfect mana when green was as open as it was is pretty appealing to me, along with the fact that it's not something you get to do super often in Limited, so I like it when the opportunity arises to go monocolor like this. So yeah, pretty sweet looking deck, and we'll see how it runs as we head into round one. Alright, so here we are in round one with a pretty good hand. It's a little risky. Our opponent is on the play, so we are on the draw, which makes me feel a little more comfortable with the hand. The obvious thing that I'm not in love with is only 2 mana with a bunch of 4 mana cards in the hand, but our turn 2 play is great. If we can hit the 2 mana, this hand should be off to the races. And we have something to do turn 3 even if we don't have a 3-drop, as long as we hit the lands to play the rest of our hand. We can just level up our Ranger class turn 3. If it were like some other 2-drop, I might not be interested in the hand. But the fact that it's Ranger class, which gives us the turn 2 play and the turn 3 play, that makes me pretty happy with it. And we do hit the 3rd land here, so we're only 1 mana away from being able to cast the important parts of the hand, the Oracle Moldiah to dig for the lands to cast everything else. And that'll also let us cast Sawtusk Demolisher on the mutate cost, Guruk, and make some beasts. So most of our hand's castable if we hit 1 more mana. Alright, Fauna Shaman's a great draw if our opponent can't kill it like they killed our wolf. So let's play a Fauna Shaman here. If this survives till our next turn, this is our way out here. One thing I completely forgot to mention with Fauna Shaman that is also really good is Fauna Shaman can even pull a land out from our deck because we have a Tangled Florahedron in here. So if we want, we can discard our 6-drop Ovenwald Hydra and just grab a Tangled Florahedron to play as a tapped land. So just another thing that makes the card really flexible and really nice. So our opponent is on Boros here. They've played some mountains, some plains. They've cast an Unholy Heat to deal 2 to our wolf. Other than that, they have a 3/1 that can destroy our Ranger class if they want, or a Mikaeus that sits here getting more counters. We'll keep putting counters on itself, and then later in the game they can start removing counters from Mikaeus to put counters on the rest of their board. So Mikaeus is a pretty big deal, because we do not have a lot of removal in our deck. So the fact that we can't just get that out of here before they play a bunch of creatures is pretty threatening to us. So we do hit the 4th mana, so I don't think we're using Fauna Shaman here. The question is whether we want to play Guruk and make a 3/3. I don't think that's it. Oracle Moldiah try and hit lands, or just Sawtusk Demolisher. I feel like I want to just Sawtusk Demolisher to destroy their Felidar Retreat they just played, because otherwise they get a 2/2 every time they play land, or put a counter on their whole field every time they do. Either of those is pretty bad for us. Yeah, I'm going to mutate Sawtusk Demolisher onto our Fauna Shaman and destroy their Felidar Retreat and let them have the 3/3. Now we've got a nice beefy 6/6 to block with, but it's pretty likely now we have also a big lightning rod for any removal our opponent has at their disposal. So Mikaeus is up to 3 +1/+1 counters. They can only put 1 counter on things at a time. The question is just whether they put the counter on Mikaeus or put the counter on the rest of their board by removing 1 from Mikaeus. So it's not like they can have a Mikaeus with 5 counters on it and then just tap Mikaeus and put 5 counters on everything else. No, it does it once per turn. So Venerated Loxodon's to play for the turn, so just a ton of +1/+1 counters from their deck. Even Felidar Retreat would be putting counters on their stuff, but now Venerated Loxodon convoking out, putting counters on their stuff. Still nothing beefy enough to attack through our Sawtusk Demolisher, so we could just play Ren and 7, and then we have a 6/6 and a 5/5 as blockers, so if they want to kill Ren and 7, they have to lose something to our 6/6. I'm pretty okay with that.
We prefer not to fight, but we appeal to the trees. They prepare for war.
So holding our creatures back here, so we're ready to potentially block if they go after red and 7. I totally forgot they didn't use Mikaeus yet that turn, so they actually do get to buff the rest of their field up to 6 power toughness. Yeah, Mikaeus is taking names here. That's for sure. Probably should have just used Fauna Shaman and grabbed our fight spell there. I guess Mikaeus was a 3/3, so we couldn't do that. Our creature that fights when it enters the battlefield, it's 2 green and X, so we'd spend 1 for Fauna Shaman and then 4 for it, so we could play it as a 2/3 and fight something. So it's actually still not big enough to kill Mikaeus, because they can respond to us trying to fight it by making Mikaeus bigger. Do we have any other ways in creature form to answer that? I don't think we do. And I don't think we have any, period. We're just not a deck with removal. Yeah, we just don't have a way to kill Mikaeus. So Bajri's kind of whatever. Yeah, Bajri puts counters on stuff, but does it a lot slower than Mikaeus does. They attacking me with everybody? Oh, I was really hoping they were going to do that, because then we'd trade off with Cathar Commando and their Elk. Should we lose our board state there, but then they're down to 2 creatures. The less creatures they have, the worse Mikaeus is. Because if this game goes long, like, we don't have any way to kill Mikaeus, so they could just sit here making their whole board like 10/10s or something. So I think we take every opportunity that we have to kill things. So here, like, we block here, now they have to activate Mikaeus right now, which means our Sawtusk Demolisher / Fauna Shaman would die, which isn't ideal. But we're lowering their creature counts, so they're putting counters on less things. I guess we could also just chump with the Tree Folk, and this also forces them to use Mikaeus if they don't want to lose the Elk. But this way, we get to use Fauna Shaman, so we can grab our removal that kills Mikaeus while Mikaeus is tapped. That makes a lot of sense to me. I think we do this. Because this forces Mikaeus to tap here, which means we can guarantee the kill on Mikaeus. And then we just have to deal with Bajri. Isika's Chariot. That's very cool with Ren and 7. But I think we have to just kill Mikaeus here. But then we're tapped out. We just have no blockers, and they have a lot of damage. We're at 13. I don't think we can. As good as that sounds, I don't think we can just tap our Sawtusk Demolisher here. Because then we just die. Because we spend 4 mana, we play 1 blocker that blocks the 7/7, but we take 12, which would be 13 if they put a +1/+1 counter on either of these. Yeah, we're done on board. Dead on board if I go that route. Just plus Ren and 7, there's nothing else it can do. That'll get us our land for turn. Play a big Ovenwald Hydra. Nice beefy blocker, have a 7/7 out. Dang. Thought I had a good idea on the way to block there, but I needed to think 2 turns ahead and not just 1 turn ahead. I needed to think about the fact that if we played that line trying to kill Mikaeus here, then we just don't have enough creatures to block and survive another hit. So we could not actually do the line I was considering there. So I probably should have just traded our 6/6 into their 6/6. Because again, just any creature we can get off the board is 1 less potential, like 10/10 in the future. And now they just have a Dauntless Bodyguard for Mikaeus. I guess they could just put it on Loxodon if they want.
I trust in your abilities.
Yeah, I guess they're just going to give the bodyguard to the Loxodon. I'm surprised they didn't just put a counter on Mikaeus with Bosri and then buff the entire field instead of just the one beast. They could still buff the entire field here if they want the Loxodon to live, but they can also just crack the bodyguard to do it. We have to block 2 creatures either way, so we might as well block the way that potentially kills something. Like here we might kill Dauntless Bodyguard. We definitely kill Cathar Commando. Alternatively, they just sack Mikaeus, and then we don't kill the bodyguard, but we kill Mikaeus, which is nice. And either way, we kill Commando. Yeah, we'll just do that. Either way, we're killing Cathar Commando. The question is, do we kill Dauntless Bodyguard, or do we kill Mikaeus? Probably rather kill Mikaeus. Yeah, we're just going to kill the bodyguard. Alright. So they're down to 2 attackers now, basically, because it's just Mikaeus. Like, Mikaeus is just kind of an enchantment, you know? It's not going to be attacking in or anything. So, if we get enough chump blocks, we're not stone out of it yet. We have 8 mana, so we can cast a Garruk and a Chariot. Both of those make a blocker. Ren and 7 make an 8/8 here. We go Garruk first, because Garruk gets a loyalty counter back if our opponent has more creatures than us. So let's make sure we use that ability before anything else.
Leaves underfoot. Oh, I've got fun friends.
We're definitely playing Esika's Chariot. Do we have to sacrifice Ren and 7 here? I feel like we do. I could plus Ren and 7 if I'm like just certain I can get Ren and 7 to survive another turn. I mean, I know I can get it to survive, but that's only if I lose all my creatures. And if we make an 8/8 here, got really good blocks on board. But Bosri does give something indestructible, so then we just trump with a 2/2. I think I just sack Ren and 7 and get the 8/8 and do everything I can to keep the 8/8 on board rather than Ren and 7 on board, and then try to use Esika's Chariot to copy it. Like this could potentially convince them not to attack with both creatures, just so they can hold back something to block our Esika's Chariot and kill our Esika's Chariot, because otherwise Esika's Chariot makes sure we get an 8/8 every turn. Or a 9/9, even. Depending on how many lands we end up playing here. We know we have the 9th land. We could get even more off the Oracle. Ooh, Legion's Landing's disgusting here. If they can flip it. Shouldn't be too difficult for them to flip. They have 4 creatures on board. But if they can flip it, that's going to be really good with Mikaeus, because it just gives them an endless horde of 1/1s to put a bunch of counters on. Oh yeah, well, Bosri makes sure they can flip that real easy, because Bosri's going to make some 1/1s attacking here. Yep, that's going to be 3 or more creatures. Although, will it not trigger? Because the creatures come out after the attacks. It might not trigger, because it might just check when you declare attacks. Technically, these are just immediately attacking, so they never declared the attack, the tokens that they're putting out. Yeah, the tokens they put on the board technically never declared an attack, they just are attacking. Yeah, Legion's Landing does not flip. Nice. Really weird rules interaction. I definitely understand why my opponent would think that it would. But yeah, like technically, this never declared an attack, and this triggers when they declare an attack with 3 or more creatures. Alright, so what do we do here? Block the 1/1 with 3/3. No, let's crew Esika's Chariot with the 8/8, because we don't want to block with it. We know they have Macias's ability at the ready, so they can put a +1/+1 counter on all of these creatures. So that's why we're not blocking with the 8/8, because we block a 7/7 with the 8/8, and then the 8/8 dies. Oops. So we go to blocks, and we're going to block the 1/1 with a 4/4, because they can only make it a 2/2. And then we just go chump chump, because otherwise we die. And they only have 3 power to block with. So Esika's Chariot gets the attack in. Even if they block and then use Macias, that's going to be 3 power either way. Either 2 Macias and 1 Vampire, or 1 Macias, 2 Vampire. I guess if they block with Macias and the Vampire and put a counter on Macias, they could trade with Chariot, but then Macias is gone. So it's probably worth it. Especially with Timeless Witness. Okay, Timeless Witness is an incredible draw. Get back Ren and 7. Oh my god. Yeah, we're going to town. We're going to town. Oh my god, it only costs 2 to crew Esika's Chariot now, even. So we can crew it with our Beast, or we can crew it with Timeless Witness. I think we crew it with Timeless Witness. Oh my god, we're about to live the dream. Timeless Witness. Pick up Ren and 7. Let's get our Beast now, so we get the loyalty counter, because they have 4 creatures and we have 3. Now we Ren and 7. Now we make another 9/9. Now we crew our Chariot. Make another 9/9. Probably kill Basri here. They could double block Chariot to kill it, but then I still have all of this and a third 9/9. And they would no longer have Macias. The Chariot Ren and 7 combo going off. We are only at 6 life with 3 blockers against their 4 attackers, but 2 of those attackers are going to be like 2/2s. Alright, Basri's gone.
Despite defeat, I am proud of us.
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't have sent in the tree folk there. Just to play it really safe, because we don't know what they're going to draw into. If they draw into a removal spell, we could be in a bad spot. I don't think we can die to a removal spell, because we just go block, block, take 3. Yeah, we can't die to a removal spell. But it could be bad for us. Might get to the point now where they're not attacking us. Because as I said before, if they send in and don't kill us like right now, they're just leaving the shields down for Esika's Chariot to get another free attack in, make another 9/9 or 10/10. Alright, I mean, I'll trade my 9/9s off here. I'm gonna get more. I have a Ren and 7 and I have an Esika's Chariot, so we're going to play defensively and just trade these all off. Plus, the only way these are all trades is if they sack Macias, so their whole board is gone if they want to trade these off. Unless their card in hand is a really good buff the whole field thing. Nope, looks like it's all going to be trades. They're down to a 2/2 lifelinker now. Yep. And we still have a 9/9 to copy with our Chariot. We've got a Rangers class to dump all our mana into so we can start casting creatures from the top, plus a Heroic Intervention to hold on to. Yeah, I like dumping the mana into the Rangers class here. Rather than putting the Oracle out, I'd rather play creatures off the top than lands. Lands off the top wouldn't be bad, though, because it makes our stuff bigger. Okay. Alright, let's pull some lands out with Ren and 7, I guess.
Power grows with
Land for turn. We get to play Oracle Moldiah, play another land here. We get to give trample to our gigantic creature.
They're a stampede of one.
And their stuff small enough we get to attack with Essica's Chariot. I should accrued with Oracle Moldiah and not Timeless Witness, because Timeless Witness is something we want to be in the graveyard, so we want to actually block with it. I should have realized that earlier. But yeah, we want to be able to block with Timeless Witness. Just actually put the counter on the Chariot here to make it a little sturdier. Alright, opponent is down to 4 now. Suppose I didn't hold up my Heroic Intervention mana. Got a little excited about casting a bunch of stuff. It's probably wrong. Probably should have just held on to Oracle, so that we could have Heroic Intervention up. So what's probably the final turn here, and there's the concession from our opponent. I was going to say it's really unlikely they find a way to stabilize here. The only thing I could think of would be like destroy all non-land permanents. I think the most likely outcomes there would be they find some way to deal 6 to us, like a Banefire or something, or they just pass turn and then we kill them. So there was the concession. That is a victory in round 1 for Mono Green Stompy. Alright, here we are in round 2, and I'm loving this curve. This is literally the dream curve I was talking about. Ranger class Llanowar Visionary, Ren and 7 on 2, 3, and 4. Yeah, that's wild. That is absolutely wild. So we'll see if living the dream curve means winning the game here. Our opponent's got a really sweet looking Cave of the Frost Dragon here. And a nice aggro start. Wow, and the Den of the Bugbear. That's really cool. I don't think I have my emotes on, unfortunately. But that is very cool from our opponent. So Boros aggro most likely when they're playing a card like Selfless Savior. But we'll see. And both of the man lands. So would we rather play Llanowar Visionary or Settle the Wilds? I think I'd actually rather play Settle the Wilds, because Llanowar Visionary is more likely to get killed by a bolt or something to do 3 damage. Whereas Settle the Wilds like just puts a land and they can't kill a land. So we'll attack here and then we'll Settle the Wilds. And that'll draw us a 4 mana card from our deck into our hand as well. Give us another play for after Ren and 7. Maybe it'll get the Chariot. That would be hilarious if it finds the Chariot. Okay, no, Timeless Witness, still a great card. But could you imagine the dream hand of the Settle the Wilds into Ren and 7, and the Settle the Wilds finds the Essica's Chariot to work with the Ren and 7? Would be disgusting. So here's Conclave Tribunal. I guess they're getting rid of the Rangers class here. So that's 1 spell out of the way for Ren and 7 to potentially stick around. But I'm not going to play that defensively because we have Timeless Witness here. If we didn't have Timeless Witness, then I might have not attacked with the 2/2, because now they could removal spell our 5/5 and then potentially try to kill Ren and 7. But because we have Timeless Witness for a backup Ren and 7, if this Ren and 7 ever dies, I'm not super worried about it.
We will help you find
We're probably just playing this Giant Hydra. Alright, so there's a chump block on our Tree Folk. And here's the Ulvenwald Hydra. Pulls out another forest. They're down to 4 cards in hand, 5 mana up, and they just pass turn here. Well, the thing I'm really worried about is a Wrath, I think. We're hitting for more than lethal here. I think we just attack and recalibrate based on what happens. Are they going to activate a manland to block? No, just fog. Teferi's Protection to Fog it is. Alright, so I don't want to go all in. I don't want to kill Ren and 7 getting another creature here in case they Wrath. That would be a big way to get back in the game. I'm just going to plus Ren and 7. That way, if they Wrath, we still just make another creature here. I am milling myself quite a bit. But 17 cards is still more than enough to find a way to close out the game. Even if they Wrath us. Guess our only concern would be a Wrath that kills non-creature permanents too, but if they do that, we get our Ranger class back, plus we can just Timeless Witness our Ren and 7. I'm feeling pretty great overall. Don't know what they could have here. Giant Killer to kill the Hydra. Cast the Giant Killer as a chump blocker, and there's Garruk to give Trample. Yeah, seems good. Kind of shut off the ability to chump block now.
Out of our way.
Now they have to chump block the 2/2 to stop 2 damage. I mean, they'd stop 2 damage either way, I guess, because it has 2 toughness. But yeah, they're at 2 now. Now we will get our Tree Folk, but I'm not going to dump anything else out. This is more than enough. Cycling a cast out because they need something to kill multiple cards, not a single targeted removal spell. Could be your takedown with no creatures on board, so no damage to the 9/9, and there is the concession from our opponent. Just an excellent hand from us, and a pretty medium hand from our opponent. Just a small creature and a bunch of average removal. So 2-0 as we head into round 3. So here we are in round 3. Pretty big fan of the hand. Got Florahedron on 2, or we can play it as a land. If we're going to run out of land drops, that's certainly an option. I think we keep this. And I think I would rather play this as a land than play it on turn 2. The only way that it would matter that it's a creature and not a land is it would ramp us up if we draw a 3rd land to play a 4-mana card turn 3. I guess we do have good 4-mana cards. You know what? I'll play a forest for now, and turn 2, if we draw a forest, we'll play Florahedron. If we don't draw a forest, I'll just play it as a land. Because I don't end up playing this as a creature and having it killed by something, then I'm really stuck on mana. So we did draw a land, so now we could Florahedron for turn 3 Toski or Garruk. So I'll actually try that out here. So we're playing against green-white with an Usher of the Fallen as their first play. A 2/1 that can spit out 1/1 soldiers for 2 mana when it attacks. And yeah, now that I have the 3rd mana, I'm really not going to be that disappointed if our Florahedron gets killed by a removal spell, because then we still have 3 mana, so we know we're going to cast a Llanowar Visionary or a Fertile Footsteps from our Beanstalk Giant. We know we'll have some other way to get the 4th mana. Mikaeus, no! Get out of here, Mikaeus. How many times do I have to teach you this lesson, old man? What do we do now? I'm horrified of Mikaeus. But I can't kill it. It's our best threat here. We just play a Toski and pass. Indestructible blocker, so you can't get in super well, but then it has to attack each turn, and it doesn't attack in very well. Yeah, Toski doesn't actually do much of anything here until we give it Trample with Garruk. That actually is kind of nice. Yeah, I mean, our options here are literally just like Toski or Garruk. Those are our biggest threats. Neither of them are that big of a threat here. I don't know, making a 3/3 seems pretty fine to me, and then we have a play pattern we could do where we play Toski next turn, and then buff our 3/3, make it a 6/6 trample. That should almost definitely chip in for 1 and let us draw a card off of Toski's ability. Unless they just kill Garruk here. It's possible they just kill Garruk here if they can kill our beast, or just buff whatever gets through. Maul of the Skyclaves. Alright, goodbye, Garruk. That's a flying Usher the Fallen now. But now we actually won't even need Garruk on the board for Toski to go off. Because the Usher will be tapped, so their only blocker is going to be Mikaeus. They're not going to chump block with Mikaeus to stop me from drawing a card. Well, maybe they will, but I would be fine with that if they do. Yep, I mean, that's what I'm going to do here. Toski. Attack with our 3-3. I don't think we attack with Florahedron here. There's like a mild argument for attacking with Florahedron, but the problem with doing that is they could block with Mikaeus and then put a +1/+1 counter on Mikaeus, so they have a 2-2 blocking our 1-1. But if we attack with Florahedron, we're guaranteed to draw a card, whereas this way we're not. This way they could still chump with Mikaeus and put a counter on Usher the Fallen. It's possible. Just get really aggro with the Usher. Looks like that is not their choice of play, though. All right. We're going to have 6 mana next turn. Can play Llanowar Visionary and Fertile Footsteps. Don't have a huge reason to Timeless Witness yet. If we play both our ramp spells next turn, then the turn after we'll have enough mana to Timeless Witness and cast Garruk together, which is very nice. So are they going to attack in here and keep some pressure on me, or just hold back to stop Toski? Looks like they're holding back to stop Toski from drawing us any cards, which is fine by me, because I'm a little scared that they can start hitting us for like 6 flying damage a turn. Because Mikaeus can put a counter on both their flyers, and they have a 5 power flyer and a 2 power flyer. Plus, I mean, who knows, Clarion Spirit's likely to spit out more 1/1 flyers. So Scavenging Ooze is the draw, but it doesn't really do anything on this board state. It's just a 2-2. I think I play Llanowar Visionary before anything else, so I can draw a card and have that factor into my choice. But I'm probably just going to be doing a Fertile Footsteps, unless I draw a better 3-mana card, like a Seek the Wilds or whatever. Alright, we just hit a land, so yeah, I think Fertile Footsteps it is. Yep, I mean, all of their threats are flying anyway, so we don't need to play like a 2-2 on the ground. We can just not play a blocker this turn. We could attack with this 3-3, but then they block with Usher and buff with Mikaeus. Yeah, that's bad. No attacks. Attacking with Toski because we're forced to, but basically no attacks here. So we're running up against another Mikaeus here, but this Mikaeus is alongside some flyers. Mikaeus might be getting some revenge on us here. It's not looking great. Opponent has 3 cards in hand, 4 mana up. They go for a Brutal Cathar. Exile one of our creatures until Brutal Cathar leaves the battlefield. They exile Toski. And we're getting hit for 7 in the sky. Well, it's not looking great for us, but at least it's looking like it's going to end pretty quick. We're dead in 2 more turns. Ooh, Scute Swarm. Any possible way Scute Swarm turns things around fast enough? I don't think it's fast enough. But I mean, it's threatening. It's definitely threatening. The only thing Timeless Witness can hit is Garruk still. Garruk doesn't even really do anything. So I think we're just playing Scavenging Ooze. We just play 3/3s here. I think I'm going to attack with our 3/3 Beast here. Because the only way they kill it without like losing a blocker, is if they kill Mikaeus to buff their field. So I think attacking with our 3/3 is actually good here. But then I just play like Scavenging Ooze past turn. So our opponent's scrying some cards with their Maze Mind Tome. And we'll attack for 3 against their Brutal Cathar, Clarion Spirit, and Mikaeus. No blocks, so we got a little bit of damage in there. And we're not going to find any other route to victory than somehow getting 5,000 Scute Swarms out fast enough to attack for 14. So every point of damage we can get in matters. Three cards in hand and 4 mana up still from our opponent. They have lethal on board in 2 attacks, 7 flying power, and we're at 13 life. So they're going to go ahead and buff the whole field with Mikaeus. That's 9 flying damage now. But yeah, the matchups like this definitely show off that I think the objectively better build of this deck would be with that red splash. It's just less cool. But the red splash would be for a removal spell. It's for the Domri that lets us fight things. We could get that flyer off the board, get that Mikaeus off the board, stuff like that. And is definitely our deck's biggest weakness, is our lack of removal. Ulvenwald Hydra is the draw. It does have reach. So we can block that Usher of the Fallen and just take 3. We actually still take lethal because we only have 1 flying blocker. Mikaeus' ability makes their other flyer 4 power as well, and we're at 4 life. So I think the Ulvenwald Hydra is a little too late, sadly. Don't really have attacks here. They've got 4/4 blockers. Our biggest attacker's a 3/3. Just pass turn and die to Mikaeus buffing the flyers. Fifth land now. See if they cast anything pre-combat here. Nope, straight to combat. Straight to attacks for lethal. All they have to do is activate Mikaeus. I think Scavenging Ooze only gains life if it exiles a creature from a graveyard, and there's no creatures in graveyard. In graveyards, plural. So, oh, they put a counter Mikaeus. Okay. Well, then we live another turn. Maybe. We go to 1. We live another turn now. Valorous stands to destroy Ulvenwald Hydra. All right. I mean, I'll take it. That's another turn to live. When we were dead on board. Better than nothing. With 8, 9, 10 mana, we would need to play... We'd need 12 mana. No, we need 10 to pick up Ovenwald Hydra and recast it. Problem is they have 2 flyers, so it doesn't really matter. So I think I just exile Ovenwald Hydra to gain 1 life. I mean, the 1 life doesn't matter because we're getting hit for 9. So, you know, I don't exile the Hydra. Oh, Shadow Spear. Oh, it's too much mana. It's 2 mana requiring. 8, 9, 10. Yeah, we would have to be able to play this, equip it, and attack with something, and have the mana to play Timeless Witness and play Ovenwald Hydra as a blocker. We don't have the mana for all that. We can spend 4 on the Witness and 6 on the Hydra and then have a tapped land in play. We don't have the extra 3 mana to also give something lifelink. And we have no way to gain 9 life here off the Shadow Spear. Alright, well, do our best play here. But unless our opponent decides against lethal for another turn, then we are gone. Might as well send in the scutes this time. Might as well send in everybody for that matter. They block a 3/3 and a 1/1 and take 3. Oh, hold up. I forgot how absurd this card is. I think it's going to transform back into Brutal Cathar because I played Timeless Witness plus Ovenwald Hydra, which means it transforms back and they just exile Ovenwald Hydra. Yeah, Brutal Cathar just goes off here. So we had no way to get our Ovenwald Hydra back, because the only way to do it is to cast 2 spells in 1 turn. We cast a spell that returns it, and then cast the Hydra itself. By doing that, Brutal Cathar flips back and exiles again. So there it is. Attacking for 11 in the sky, down to -10 this turn. That is game. Alright, here we are now in round 4, 2-1. The hand that I'm a fan of, it's nowhere near our craziest hand, but it looks nice and consistent to me. We have Dryad Greenseeker and Oracle of Moldiah as card draw engines to dig through a bunch of lands. We have Beanstalk Giant being our late game play, just play a giant, just a literal jolly green giant here. So our opponent starts with a Forsaken Crossroads on white. We draw into a Wrenn and 7. That seems great. I think with Dryad Greenseeker and Oracle of Moldiah, we're not likely to need to play Balagad Sanctuary, so I'm just going to play Forests here and hold on to Balagad Recovery instead. Opponent plays an island now into a Suspicious Stowaway. It's unblockable. Whenever it hits us, they get to draw a card, then discard a card. If it flips, it's 2 power unblockable, and when it hits us, they just straight draw a card. So if that flips, if they choose not to cast any spells during their turn, that's going to start doing some wild stuff. Currently, it's still pretty solid. It's a Looter Ilkor, a 1/1 that draws and discards cards every single turn. So it looks like just blue-white here. Blue-white flyers, it looks like blue-white unblockable stuff. They play Suspicious Stowaway, discarded a Remorseful Cleric. Now they're playing a Champion of Wits. That's draw 2, discard 2 when they play it, and they can eternalize it later as a 4/4 for 7 mana. Draw 4, discard 2. Oh yeah, this is blue-white flyers with some graveyard synergies too, disturb cards and eternalize cards. Alright, this is going to be pretty sick deck from our opponent, I think. Kind of a scary matchup for us. Green is not great against flyers, but at least Wrenn and 7's Treefolk has reach. So we've got something to defend ourselves against flyers. Really got to get a new mouse that has like silent clicking. So every now and then I try to instinctually start pulling my mouse like as far away from the mic as possible, but it always picks it up pretty loud. Alright, so Dryad Greenseeker did hit a land for us. That's pretty cool. I think we're just going to play a Ren and 7 and get a big old tree folk here. We're against a deck that has literal unblockable creatures. I don't think we're ever going to be in a good position to defend Ren and 7. So we kind of just spit it out here just to get a nice tree folk and let Ren and 7 die and then bring it back with Balagad Recovery to get another tree folk. I feel like that's the general plan for Ren and 7 here. Just play it as the 5 mana 5/5 reach. And then it'll be a 6/6 reach, then a 7/7 reach as the game progresses. Ooh, that's disgusting. Alright, they have the bounce spell to use on our tokens, so our token's just permanently gone. It's true, blue is going to be a pretty poor matchup for the red and 7, because they can kill the tokens real easily. As well as red and 7 themselves.
Regenerate.
So we need 8 mana total to return Ren and 7 to hand and cast it. So we probably just play Oracle of Moldiah this turn, so we can play 2 lands. And then we'll have 8 mana next turn. Ooh, Voracious Hydra on top. Maybe I'm just slamming it on a Voracious Hydra this turn instead. We can make it a 4/5 and fight something. Kill their flyer, and then we're just dealing with the 1/1 unblockable. Yeah, I'm pretty down for that plan. Although maybe we just kill the little unblockable creature instead, either way. I think we kill the flyer, because the flyer is basically unblockable for a little while. And their unblockable creature, it's pretty much always going to be a 1/1. The only way they're going to make it a 2/1 is if they just pass turn without casting anything, and if they do that, like, we're very close to being able to cast 2 things in one turn. We'll just play Oracle and Fauna Shaman, or we'll play Recovery and Ren and 7. Like, we have a lot of options for casting 2 spells in one turn to nullify the Seafaring Werewolf. Yeah, so the Stowaway is basically like a 16-turn clock. We're just going to let them keep drawing, discarding. That'd be the biggest argument for killing the Stowaways. We stop them from setting up their hand with withdraw, discard. Mind Flayer to take our 4/5? Sure. Settle the Wilds. We actually have too much mana now for this to seek anything. We don't have any 7 mana permanents in our deck. So Settle the Wilds is just not a good draw at this point. We'll play our Beanstalk Giant so we have a big enough blocker to block Voracious Hydra. Sublime Epiphany, that card is absolutely disgusting. Counterspell, counter an activated ability, return a non-land permanent to hand, create a copy of something, and draw a card. So they bounce our Greenseeker, copy the Mind Flayer. That, yeah, I mean, that ends the game right there, I think. Actually choosing not to draw a card off the Epiphany. Yeah, we go to like 6 and now their board is insane. Yeah, we got Sublime Epiphany'd hard. Yeah, no, we can't put enough on the board. That's game. Alright, so here we are in round 5, 2 and 2, and as you can see, I decided to put the red splash in for Domri so we can fill in that hole that our deck is so sorely needing, the removal slot. So we have 1 mountain, a rootbound crag, and a stomping ground, and of course we've drawn 2 of the red sources here, but that's okay. I'm still going to keep the hand because we've got Emergent Sequence here. Well, am I? I don't know. It is kind of hilarious though. I add the 1 mountain and immediately punished for adding a second color. Like we're guaranteed 3 mana here because Emergent Sequence, unless our opponent kills whatever we pull out with it, but we need 5, we need 6. Our 4-drops aren't even super great. Yeah, I'm gonna mulligan. Alright, this is pretty great. Yeah, I like this a lot. I think I get rid of Ovia, maybe? Or maybe Beanstalk Giant. It's definitely not Scoot Swarm or Eska's Chariot. Those are both armies in a can, which is really nice. I guess we get rid of Beanstalk Giant. Because I actually like that every single one of these is like for a token strategy. So all of these cards kind of benefit off each other. By having a bunch of Scoot Swarms on the board, Ovia can now make a big old XX. Eska's Chariot can get crewed by all the little Scoot Swarms, or can copy the Scoot Swarms. So, yeah, I like the general synergy going on with those cards. So your opponent's on blue-red with a Dragon's Rage Channeler on the board. And an Unholy Heat as the first spell. So far looking like a straight-up blue-red Delver Historic deck here. Yeah, and they mill a Consider as well. Opponent came in with their constructed deck, but that's kind of how the cube tends to go. We came in with mono green Stompy, basically a standard constructed deck. But yeah, Dragon's Rage Channeler with all the cheap removal to back it up is going to be pretty hard for us to beat. We're already running out of threats. I'd rather play Garruk than the Chariot here. Get a guaranteed 3/3 rather than a 2/2. A 2/2 is just easier to kill in red with all their 2 damage spells. Throw a 2 damage spell at Garruk though. Oh my god. Now they have the literal lightning bolt. The 3 damage spell for the token. Wow. This is starting to feel less like a historic deck and more like a legacy deck. They have a literal lightning bolt and counterspell too. The OGs. The best rate for both of those abilities ever printed. Well, if this is how the run's going to end, so be it. This is an excellent deck from our opponent. Goblin Dark Dwellers, they cast one of our instant sorceries. Okay, so that's just a 4/4 menace. Oh, from their graveyard. Oh. Well, never mind. That's actually... Yeah, no, that's horrible. Oh my lord. They mill a Bone Crusher Giant. I can't get over this. Every spell I've seen is just like cream of the crop, cheap instant sorceries to go with Dragon's Rage Channeler, Goblin Dark Dweller type cards. I guess we attack with the Chariot here, trade with Dark Dwellers and get another 2/2 out. Mother tapped out. Because if we don't do anything here, then as soon as they draw another shock, like, our cat's gone and we can't do anything. We can't even crew the Chariot. Like, if they have anything at all that can just kill a single cat, then everything we have is dead in the water if we don't just go for that attack there. Now we've gotten their 4/4 menace off the board, and we have 2/2/2s, so they need 2 removal spells to deal with everything we have. Chandra is 2 removal spells, though. Chandra is much more than that. They go for the Wrath with Chandra. We do draw Balagad Recovery. It's our best option to recover. Just cute Storm play for us. No, then they just do the -3 again. But if they -3 again, then Chandra's gone. So then the whole board is empty if they do that. Because I feel like if I Balagad Recovery and grab Eska's Chair, they can just -2 Chandra to kill our 1 cat, and then we're again dead in the water. Unless I top deck another card. I guess I could grab Garruk. They have to -3 Chandra to kill a 3/3. Yeah, I think we grab Garruk because they have to -3 Chandra to kill the beast, and if they don't, then the beast kills Chandra. So if they have nothing in hand and they draw into a land or something here, then a beast is like... Actually, no, it's not enough to kill Chandra because Chandra's plus ability is +2. But it's our best shot. It's the only thing they can't easily just kill and shut everything off.
In these skies, unfortunately for you,
Actually, yeah, if they do just plus Chandra and they can't play anything here, then okay, never mind. I was gonna say then I think we kill Chandra because we can plus on the beast and make it a 6/6 trampler and then hit Chandra for 6 when she's at 5 loyalty. But now they have a time warp, which means Chandra gets to kill Garruk and go up. I'm surprised they chose to kill Garruk there. I might have just double +2'd. Because then Chandra's at 7. We could only hit her for 6. But then we get another 3/3 from Garruk, so yeah, that's fair. Just deal with Garruk there.
Is it just me, or is it getting a little warm in here?
Opponent has Time Warp and Brainstorm as well. Ooh, there's Domri. Oh, we have no red mana this game. Maybe I should have stuck to my mono green guts. See if we get to see the last card in their hand here. We certainly do. It's Shark Typhoon to trade into our beast and draw a card and leave Chandra on the board.
Oh, looks like someone's getting a little sweaty.
They have the blue man land as well. Well, we'll see if this pulls our mountain out. Nope.
Hope it's not too hot for you.
We're just dead. Good God. That might be the best cube deck I've played against yet. That was an insane blue-red spells deck. And that is definitely going to end it, but not too unhappy to end it against that deck. That was a well-deserved win for our opponent, and 2 and 3 for the Stompy deck. In some earlier rounds, it was looking like maybe we should be splashing the Domri because our biggest flaw is our lack of removal. But then, as you can see, in the last round there, when I did decide to splash in the Domri, that ended up being a problem as well. We just didn't have the mana for it. What I should have cut Settle the Wilds for the Cultivate once I did the red splash. If I was going to go the red route. I think it's marginal either way. After seeing how it actually played out, if we should have been mono green, if we should have just had the Domri splash. But if we went for the Domri splash, we definitely should have cut Settle for the Cultivate, because Settle can't pull out a mountain. It pulls one out at random. So we just had Beanstalk Giants, Fertile Footsteps, we had Gilded Goose, we had Emergent Sequence, we just had the 3 that could pull out a mountain. But then we also had 3 natural red sources, a mountain and 2 dual lands. Still wasn't that bad without Cultivate, but definitely should have been Cultivate over Settle. Either way, definitely sad to 2-3 with this deck. I think this deck was pretty solid. The lack of removal was a huge, huge downside, though. And certainly played against some decks that really punished us for that. Flyers are always good against green decks, and we lost to some major unblockable / flyer type stuff 2 of the rounds. The Macias white deck with a bunch of white flyers, and then the blue-white deck with a lot of unblockable and flying stuff. That's then Sublime Epiphanied in the end. Those were both pretty poor matchups. And then that last deck, that was just a really, really good deck from our opponent. I think that deck from our opponent could beat pretty much anything. But overall, still quite a fun draft, even if it didn't pan out perfectly in the end. But that is going to end today's draft. If you're interested in seeing more Arena Cube drafts and you're enjoying the videos, just stick around on the channel. There will be plenty more. Tomorrow we'll have another Arena Cube draft, and then the day after that we will have the Arena Decathlon Finals video, which is going to be a really fun one. That is going to be a best of 3 Arena Cube draft event with really cool prizes on the line. The main prize I'm vying for is just trying to get 3 match wins to get 3 player draft tokens. That is the most useful prize for me by far, but there's cool cosmetics like the Jace avatar that meows for some reason. And there are the unhinged basics, but I already have the unhinged basics, so just some decent sleeves. And then, of course, the big prize that we're going to try to get is 1 of each card in Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. If we can win 7 matches before we lose 3 matches. So that is the big event. I'll have a video up of that on Sunday because the event is on Saturday, and I am going to want to edit together all of the downtime because it's going to be a really long event. So I'm going to want to cut out the in-between rounds. Yeah, and we'll have a regular cube draft out tomorrow. So once again, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.